Welcome to Health Law and Policy. I'm Louise Joy.
And I'm Jane Hyatt Thorpe, and together we will be teaching the Health Law and Policy module for this program, along with two of our colleagues that you'll meet later this course. However, before we get started, we're going to tell you a little bit about ourselves. Louise?
I'm a healthcare attorney in Austin, Texas, and I have been practicing health law since 1991. I've also been working in healthcare for over 40 years. In my opinion, health law is the most interesting area. I got my master's degree in the George Washington University Health Administration program in 1985. I will say that at that point in my life, being a lawyer was on my no list, but I am so happy to be practicing in health law, and I love working with healthcare providers.
And like Louise, I too love the field of health law and policy. I'm currently a professor in the Department of Health Policy and Management at GWU and teach a variety of courses related to policy analysis, healthcare quality, and health policy. I also direct a graduate program on healthcare corporate compliance. So my background is actually traditionally and formally in law. I did start out as a lawyer just like Louise, but then have migrated through 2 tours of duty in government service, working for the Medicare and Medicaid programs and the Health Information Technology Coordinator, but primarily my home now is as a professor.
I took my first and only health law course from Harold Hirsch here at GW. The Hirsch Health Law and Policy course program is named after Dr. Hirsch. When I took that course, Dr. Hirsch was great. It was a fascinating course. He focused on court decisions and primarily professional liability issues. Despite the fact that that course was so entertaining and so good, we have found that the spread of healthcare and the subject matter is so broad that we have attempted to provide a lot more content and a lot more coverage to help you as you move on in your practice as a healthcare administrator.
Great. Over the next 10 weeks, we're going to give you an overview of the key components of healthcare law and policy, including the legal system as it applies to healthcare. Healthcare is one of the most highly regulated industries in our country, and there's a very vast, very complicated set of laws and regulations and a very complex framework that Louise and I are going to spend the next many weeks addressing with you. We're going to talk about numbers of issues, mainly focused on federal healthcare programs with some state laws as well, but thinking about issues such as what is the actual legal framework for healthcare? What does it mean to talk about program integrity and sort of the maintenance of the federal healthcare programs? What does it mean to have access to emergency medical treatment? How do I think about health information and privacy within my organization and being able to disclose it when necessary, but keeping it private when also necessary? And then, of course, at the end, towards the end, we'll actually give you an overview of the concept of a compliance program, which we can use to organize all these laws and regulations into a very workable format for your organization.
So I'll be teaching 4 sessions. The first session will focus on an overview of law in general and the basics of how laws intersect with healthcare. Another session will provide an overview of the Medicare and Medicaid program and the rules that are involved. A third session will cover portions of the Medicare program integrity, which deal with the extreme numbers of audits that providers are going through, and even just the difficulties of becoming a Medicare or Medicaid provider. And my 4th session will deal with the Emergency Medical Treatment Act along with the patient rights and consent issues. Then we will also have 2 professors joining us. We'll be joined by Mike Glum, who will teach a session on tax law, and Mike is a partner with Feldsman, Tucker, Leifer, and Fidel, and a professorial lecturer at the George Washington Department of Health Policy and Management. He's also helped create the GW Healthcare Corporate Compliance Graduate Certificate Program, and Mike's had extensive experience addressing tax and other healthcare compliance issues with a particular focus on community health centers and the 340B drug program.
Great. And we'll also be joined later this module by Professor Taylor Burke, who's also a professor in the Department of Health Policy and Management. He'll be addressing antitrust issues, which has become a key issue as we think about a more integrated, more coordinated healthcare system. Obviously, it implicates a number of antitrust provisions, and he'll walk you through how those issues are being resolved and some of the challenges that still remain. Professor Burke also works with me, as I said, in the department. He was formerly the director of the MPH program and now is the director of the online programs at GW. So he's been teaching and doing administrative duties for over 10 years in our department. Also, I will be teaching 4 weeks like Louise as well. My 4 weeks will cover a range of issues. 1 week we're going to talk about the actual federal healthcare program integrity laws and regulations, and we'll focus on 3 key laws and regulations in particular that week, which will nicely tee up Louise's week where she'll talk about the application of these laws and regulations. We'll also spend a week talking about health information privacy and security, including HIPAA, of course, but there's also many other federal laws and state laws that also govern health information and privacy, and we'll tackle those too. I'll also be teaching a week on health system transformation and what exactly that means. What are we trying to do when we think about transforming the healthcare system? We'll talk about the stakeholders that are involved and some of the new initiatives in terms of quality improvement, as well as care and delivery system reform. And finally, we will conclude this module with a session on how to be compliant. What does it mean for your organization to try and stay informed and aware of and in compliance with all of these laws and regulations that we've been talking about, and to help when the government does show up, such as the audits that Louise was mentioning, how do you handle that process? So we'll talk about identifying risks and how to develop and maintain a successful compliance program.
We look forward to working with you over the next 10 weeks, and we hope that we will help you manage the many moons of healthcare.
And feel free, of course, to contact either one of us at any time. We're really excited.
Thank you.